So today we're looking at the surface area of pyramids. And the first thing to remind ourselves about is, what does a pyramid look like? What's it made out of? So if we go and look at the net, that's probably our best picture, because that is what surface area takes into account, all of its surfaces. So we do have one base, some kind of polygon, and then we have triangular sides. Okay, so here we have a rectangular pyramid. It has one base and the four triangles to match the sides of the base. And then we have the pentagonal pyramid. So you have a pentagon, and then since you have five sides on your base, you have to have five triangles. And then here's a picture of a square pyramid. So you have a square for a base, and then the four triangles to match each side of the base. And so remember that these can be folded up and they would make a pyramid. And so each of these surfaces are what we have to take into account when we look at surface area. So our surface area formula is big B, which stands for your base area, plus N times B times H divided by 2. Okay, and I know that seems strange, but if we look at the N, that's the number of sides you have, and then the B is your base, and then we have the height divided by 2. So if you look at base times height divided by 2, that's just your triangle formula. And then the N would stand for how many triangles you have. Okay, so back to this picture, we would have to have our base, but then we'd have to take into account the four triangles. So we would have 4 times base times height divided by 2, because we count for each of those triangles. Okay, so that's where the NBH divided by 2 comes from. Okay. So a reminder again, the B stands for base area, the N stands for the number of sides, B is the base of the triangle, H is the height of the triangle. And so just another showing, here's the base area, that pentagon, and there's the base of a triangle. It's also the side of the base, right? So the base of the triangle is actually a side of the base because this triangle folds up. Okay, and then we have the height of the triangle right there. Now think for a minute, when you fold this shape up, what does that height actually become? Okay, so think a minute, what does this height actually become when you fold it up and you make your pyramid? So hopefully you answered slant height. Okay, so now we're taking the formula we just had, it was NBH, and we can actually make it simpler and just put PL. Okay, and the reason we can do PL is P stands for perimeter. And so that's just the side length, right, or your base, times the number of times you have it. So if you have a pentagon, you have to have 5 of them. So that's all perimeter is, the number of sides you have times your value of your side. So that replaces the N and the B, and then that height, we said, when we fold it up, the height of the triangle becomes the slant height of the pyramid. So we can change that H to an L. Okay, so that's where the rewriting of the formula comes from. So this is the one we're going to use. Okay, so B equals the P times L divided by 2. And again, the B is the base area and the perimeter is all the distance around. And then we have the slant height, which was the height of the triangle. It's the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and try an example. So what shape do we have here? We have a square pyramid. Okay, and so we're going to need to find our base area, and then we need our perimeter and our slant height. Okay, so where the red star is our base. The 4 is our side length, and so that will help us find the base area. It will also help us find the perimeter. Okay. So to find the base area, we just take our sides squared, because that's how you find the area of a square, and we get 16. And we also need our perimeter, and that's 4 times S in a square, so we also get 16 for our perimeter. And then lastly, we need our slant height, which is the 6.3. Okay, so we have all of our numbers identified. Let's put it in the formula. So we have 16 plus 16 times 6.3, and we divide that last part by 2, and we should get 66.4 inches squared. Okay, and so that's the surface area of the square pyramid. So again, if we wanted to paint it, if we wanted to cover it with carpet or wrapping paper, something like that, is when we would need to use this. Okay, so here we have our second shape. This time it is a triangular pyramid. Okay, and so our base is shown by the star. Today we are only dealing with regular polygons, so this one has to be an equilateral triangle, and it is. We see the 999. Okay, so again, we need the base area, the perimeter, and the slant height. So let's look at the 9. Okay, so we need the 9 and the 7.8 because these are our base and height of our base. And to find the base area of a triangle, right, we have to have base times height divided by 2. Okay, so we have the 9 and the 7.8, and we divide it by 2. And that gives us a base area of 35.1. Okay, so now we need to find the 3 triangles. And we'll do that by using the perimeter and the slant height. So the perimeter of the base is 3 because it's a triangle, and then times the side. So 3 times 9 is 27. So that's our perimeter. And then now we have our slant height, which is 11.3. And put it in our formula. We should end up with 187.65 centimeters squared. Okay. Here we have a pentagonal prism because I have 5 sides on that base. And so we will have 1 pentagon plus the 5 equal triangles that make it up. Okay, so the base area of a polygon is that apothem times perimeter divided by 2. So we are going to need the 8 because that's a side length. Okay, and that figures into our perimeter. We need the apothem, which is just from the center to an edge. And we'll need our slant height. Okay, so the base area is apothem times the perimeter divided by 2. Our perimeter is 5 times 8 because we have a pentagon and each side is 8. So our perimeter is 40. Our apothem is 5.5. So our base area is apothem times perimeter divided by 2. So 5.5 times 40 divided by 2, which gives us 110. Okay, so that's our base area. And then our slant height's 10.6. We already know our perimeter, so we have all the information to plug it into the formula. So we get 110 plus 40 times 10.6 divided by 2, and we end up with 322 feet squared. So why don't you try this one if you haven't? You can pause the video and try it. So here our base area is a hexagon this time. We have a side length of 6, an apothem of 5.2, and a slant height of 11.3. So our base area is just apothem times perimeter divided by 2. So we have 5.2 for our apothem, and then our perimeter is 6 times 6 because we have a hexagon and each side is 6. So our base area is the apothem, which is 5.2 times the perimeter, which is 36, and then we divide by 2. And then our slant height's 11.3. So then putting it in our entire formula, we have our base area plus our perimeter times the slant height divided by 2, and we end up with 297 centimeters squared. Okay. And then you get to try this one. Okay. So that's how you find the surface area of a pyramid.